Like I do not own a home personally for our family. There's some reasons for that. So these institutions will loan up to basically 50% of your income. And that like just immediately squeezes you, right? And I feel that when I'm constricting my freedom and my options, I think way less creatively because I'm operating from a place of scarcity versus like a place of abundance.
Kyle, thanks for
Yeah,
having me in Texas, man.
it's great to be here.
What have you done on a podcast before?
I guess like a couple of times, maybe over the past 5 years, but this is not a normal thing for me now.
Yeah, well, look, thank you for letting me enroll you. And
Mm,
just to give the audience some background, you're up to something right now and you're currently in it. And usually when people come on shows, they're talking about something they've already done. I called you and I asked you to come on and talk about something you're currently doing that feels risky. So I
right.
just first of all want to give you some flowers for coming on in the first place to talk about it.
Thank you,
Right,
bro.
right. Let's just hop right in. We're both business guys, love building things, growing things. And we reconnected I want to say 6 months ago, 6 to 9 months ago, you started running these weekly AI calls,
Yeah, right.
right? Where you bring people on, you bring on some specialists doing something in AI to challenge us in how we were thinking about artificial intelligence, right?
Hmm.
And I was for sure that you were going to build some sort of AI startup. That was the whole goal, was like to invest in the companies or build something. Then when I talked to you the other day, you went the exact opposite direction of that.
Correct.
So can you explain how you went from I might do an AI startup to furniture?
Right. Well, probably, so I'm a part of this group in Austin called the Front Row Dads. And the tagline of that group is family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. And it's a pretty awesome community that a gentleman named John Broman has put together. He's been running it for several years now. And there's a lot of awesome men in that group. And one of the guys that's in that group, he spoke at one of the live events like a year and a half ago. His name's Jeff Woods. He wrote a book, I think called like the AI Driven Leader. It's one of the most popular books on AI for strategic thinking that exists. And he was sharing just like the importance of leaning into AI, not as a tool to write better emails or like automate things, but to be a strategic thinker. So, hey, I have this specific challenge that I'm experiencing in my life. I've thought of these particular solutions. What am I not seeing here? What are the non-obvious like routes that I could take with this? Or you need to be an expert in X, Y, and Z subject. This is the problem I'm dealing with, and having AI be like a thought leader. And so that was an interesting concept. And one of the things he was recommending was just like committing X number of hours each week to AI.
Mhm.
And in the past, anytime I wanted to learn something, improve a skill, take action on something, it's always easier and more fun with other people, like working out with a friend. And so I decided if I'm going to be serious about AI, let me set a weekly call on the calendar that I can invite my friends to. And that'll force us basically to have something once a week to just be improving in it. So I was not necessarily having the mindset of, oh, I'm going to build an AI startup. Although my background for the past 10 years has been in direct response marketing, I feel pretty comfortable with being able to spin something up and like get customers and sell things. I wasn't necessarily thinking in that direction. It's more, how do I use AI to apply to the existing companies that I work with that are not necessarily AI enabled? And yeah, I did that for probably, I don't know, six or so months. Eventually, I noticed I was just getting bored of hosting the calls personally. Like I didn't want to be the one to keep having to host it. So I just made ChatGPT my default browser so you can do this like with your extensions. So now anytime I go online, it's not even starting at Google, it's just
Wow.
ChatGPT. And that's forcing me to spend like, multiple tens of minutes per day in the app because it's just like it's built into my daily flow.
Okay.
Mhm.
Are you a premium user?
Am I a premium? Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I have probably like every premium version of every AI app. It's like Netflix accounts.
It is. It
It's
is. It
so,
is. I have a bunch too. Okay, but then so we went for a walk, and this is how this whole thing came about. And
mhm,
you basically changed your mind on the type of businesses you wanted to go into. So
mhm,
instead of building something or raising some money for it,
mhm,
you decided that it made more sense to buy something. And
mhm,
you said something that was really unique. And AI, your experience with AI has taught you that AI is going to eat a lot of businesses
mhm.
or just change it. And you don't want to compete with some kid in Europe who wakes up one day, is better at AI than you, and can eat your lunch.
Right.
So you started
Yeah.
looking for stuff that was, I guess, less consumable.
Yeah. Earlier in my career, when I wasn't married, didn't have any kids, like building something kind of big and moving at a breakneck pace was really exciting for me. And kind of idealized. I think a lot of young men kind of think about that, like, oh, how do I build something really, really quick and then like sell it to somebody else as fast as possible. And after getting married and having children, I definitely have noticed like I want to protect my mind space and my time so that when I'm not working, I can be with my family. Like, and I don't want to be in a career that's forcing me to like move at a breakneck pace where every single week one thing changes and now all of a sudden like I have to learn something new. So I want to ideally be involved with and invest my time into things that are like timeless. And so what's timeless? Like relationships with other people is a timeless thing, right? So that's not going to get automated. I still am going to want to like connect with people physically in person. Having that kind of thought process of, okay, I don't want to be in something that I could be engaged with it this year and next year it's going to change into something totally different. Well, let me leaning into these more kind of main street, boring type businesses. And this journey probably started like 3 years ago when I was on Facebook and I saw a post from a gentleman named Kyle Mallion who was talking about buying businesses. And him and his partner together had bought like 17 or 18 different businesses throughout their career. And they were just sharing, like, hey, you don't have to grind and build something from the ground up. You can actually acquire something that somebody else has spent 20, 30 years building, 10, 15 years building, and use the same skills you would have used, but now you already have brand, you already have customers, you already have recurring revenue, you have equipment, you have a website, a lot of the things that cost a lot of money up front, that's already built in, and you can buy it typically for somewhere between like 3 to 5x of their annual profits. And so it's kind of a mindset shift. Oh, wow. Like somebody else has spent their whole life building something and that thing is also not being radically disrupted by technology every year, right? It's not changing super fast. The plumbing business that's been around 20 years ago, how much innovation has happened in that plumbing business? Like maybe not that much. The urgent care, how much innovation has happened like in the past 20 years? Maybe not the best. Furniture, construction, right? Like things do change, but not at the level that trying to compete with an AI app that you build would require.
Mhm.
The other nice thing about local kind of brick and mortar type businesses is yes, you don't have maybe the scalability that you could have with the software, but you do have a bit of a moat in your local area. So you're only competing with the people in your local area. And when I kind of learned about this model, it was really exciting to me because I have spent the past 10 years of my career learning about direct response advertising. And I feel really comfortable being able to generate leads for businesses and getting leads that actually turn into customers. And so knowing that instead of working with people on a consulting basis where I could get paid monthly for the consulting services that I offer, like being able to acquire something, whether that's entirely or a minority level, have an impact on it, and then get paid for many, many years, that's really exciting. Because most people in the consulting space, like they might get a retainer client where they're getting paid 5, 10, 15 grand a month. But once that retainer client is over, like the cash flow stop.
Right.
Or, you get paid hourly, someone pays you even a good hourly rate, $500 an hour. Well, they take your information, they deploy it into their asset, and they go make millions with your information, and you don't really see any benefit from it. I know that the path to wealth building is through assets, and it's through ownership of assets. And I could do that through the stock market, but I don't have any control of the stock market. And I also don't have a lot of knowledge. I don't live in New York where I'm surrounded by people who understand the stock market at a high level. Like I have, some friends that maybe are interested in trading and I'm like, okay, if you're interested in trading, great. You should move to New York and go actually like learn from some professional traders because you're probably not going to compete with them. Or we were talking about the Amazon store like earlier, and it's like, well, yeah, you could buy an Amazon store, but if you're not surrounded by other people that are super successful in that,
Right.
the odds of you being successful with it is going to be fairly low. And so there's stocks, there's real estate. Real estate just felt really slow to me. Everyone that I've known in real estate, they build up equity, but their cash flow is still like pretty low.
I want to talk about that a little bit more,
Mhm.
right? Just be honest. Do you buy individual stocks or just do
I do.
funds?
We try to every year just max out a Roth IRA and just stick that
Yeah.
into a Vanguard fund.
Yeah, so
That's what we do.
to me, day trading seems like a solid way to lose a bunch of money.
Right. I agree.
I told myself this like 2016, 2017. I listened to this report by some economists, and they said that 93% of traders don't beat the market.
Right.
And these are 93% of even professional
Of
traders.
traders. Exactly.
So if they do this professionally,
Right.
and this is all they think about, and 93% of them can't beat the funds, then why would I? Now, I think what happens is you can buy a stock one time
Mhm.
and hit, and then feel like I know how to pick them.
Right. Right.
But it's kind of like going to like a horse race, hitting and thinking you know how to pick horses.
Right.
But there seems to be a narrative that gets people into it.
I think it's the same narrative that is the reason people buy lottery tickets. But there's more of an argument that, well, if you just had the right course or you had the right Discord group, like now you can figure out the trade because you have that, or the right algorithm that's going to do this for you. So it's got a little bit of a leg up from the lottery because there's that feeling of ego, like, oh, maybe I could know something that somebody else doesn't know, right? I've got a couple of friends who do it. I am very adamant to their face that I don't think it's a good use of their time, and they're annoyed about it and don't like to even bring it up to me. But I genuinely care about the people in my life. I think it's a terrible waste of time unless you have a cutting edge. It's like even in real estate, like you think you're going to do well in real estate, but you don't have any connections of people who are like doing really well in real estate. Like, how are you going to get better than average results if you're not either like you yourself consumed in the thing, like in developing a level of mastery in it, or have a competitive advantage because of your network? And you can either get a network by like working your ass off to kind of like hustle into rooms or working for those people, or you can pay to play and you can pay for organizations. And that's something that I've actually done many times that's been like super helpful for me.
Is to get into orgs
Yeah.
or groups that support you.
Yeah, groups. Like I've probably been a part of 3 or 4 different masterminds that, are multiple 5-figure investments. And, there's this whole kind of ecosystem of like courses and masterminds and things that exist online. Courses in general, maybe that's not the best use of time, but if you have a course plus a group that meets in person, that can be extremely valuable. Being able to have in-person connections with real people who are doing things. If there's live events where someone like Ryan Moran hosted an event called capitalism.com, it's what brought me to Austin for the first time ever. I was like 19 years old. I flew out to Austin. I stayed in a hostel, and he was hosting an event for Amazon sellers. And I actually stayed in a hostel, met a guy who, by following Ryan's method, was able to build like a travel map company, and he ended up selling it. Well, why was he able to do that? Like he invested into Ryan's thing. He got around other Amazon sellers who were making millions of dollars through Amazon, and they had a bit of a blueprint. So like if you have a blueprint plus a community, I think it can be worth kind of paying to get access to that thing. And with this event, you had maybe 1,000 entrepreneurs that all paid $1,000 to be in the room. So you're surrounded by people who are serious. They took 3 days of their time plus $1,000 to like go be there and learn what's up. I think that's incredibly valuable. And then Ryan, the event organizer, he probably spent, well over $1 million to organize the actual event happening. And so somebody else is doing all my marketing to curate my perfect network for me to just like plug into it. All I have to do is like pay a little bit of money, instead of like me having to hustle my way to finding like 3 people that could really help me out. So in terms of like investments, we're talking about things that actually pay off. I think day trading is bullshit. Real estate, I think, can work. You can build equity, not likely to build a lot of cash flow. Like I know people, some of my friends, even they went hard on Airbnb and it worked great for a few years. And then now they're like, yeah, we're not even like paying our mortgage.
Same thing with Uber, right? Like Uber drivers early on, and now Uber's taking 70% if you ask the Uber driver. Have you had an Uber driver ask you to, hey, would you be okay if I cancel the ride and you Venmo? Does that happen?
I have not actually.
Yeah, this happened to me a week ago. I got in the car, he goes, he says, hey, how much did Uber charge you for this ride? And I was like, $57 or something like that. And I was like, well, how much are you getting from this? He's like, they're going to pay me $15. He said, if I cancel it, will you Venmo me $40?
Did you do it?
Yeah, what are you talking about? $40 this last thing. $40 is $17 less.
You don't have like some empathy towards Uber, the great like corporate overlords.
Zero empathy towards them. I as a business person, I respect it, but I like the
Right.
hustle of the guy and the risk he's taking
Yeah.
and asking that kind of question. But you're right, like it's tough to build a business on another platform sometimes.
Yeah.
We actually know each other because of a similar thing, like a coursework called the Atlas Project.
Yeah.
That
Which was very much course and community.
you just touched on something. Like when I look back on my career, every other year I invested myself in some sort of network or community that propel me to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
One, why do you think more people don't jump in
Mm-hmm.
to in-person events like that?
Yeah.
And then how do you determine whether like something's legit or if something's just like a snake
Sure.
oil salesman?
Something I was reflecting on a couple weeks ago is people's bios and like what they'll put in their bios. And if somebody invests early on into a startup that was super successful, like Uber, for example, they'll put that on their bio. And that might be the only thing they have on there. It's like Kyle Robbins, early investor in Uber. Like that in and of itself is so much credibility that maybe they don't even need to put anything else on there. And it's just like they put some of their money into an investment and maybe they did no work at all in that whole process. And what ultimately got them access to being an early investor in Uber? A relationship that they had. And so what is more valuable than the relationships that we have in our life? I don't think there's really like anything more valuable. And so if I can turn my cash into relationships, that's infinitely more powerful than having an extra $10,000 in the bank. You don't see the compounding effects of relationships until like it takes decades of time, right? And so like I'm kind of on my first decade of like being an entrepreneur. And so I'm seeing this kind of the fruit of certain decisions I made 8 years ago. My first investment was into this investors club in Chico, and the investment was $50 a semester, right? So it wasn't a big investment. It doesn't have to be a crazy investment. Toastmasters is an extraordinary community of people that are practicing public speaking, very focused on growing themselves. It's like $50 a quarter. You know, it's not expensive. So it doesn't have to be like you go join somebody's $100,000 a year program. Like Atlas, the program that we got connected through was, I think, $3,000 or $4,000 at the time, like for a 4-month experience. I think that's crazy. That's a great value. Why do more people not do this? You know, almost going back to college, like why do more people not join fraternities and sororities? There's ego attached to, well, why would I pay for my friends? I think a lot of us make really bad decisions because we're attached to the ego around like, well, what could this mean for me? If I don't build a business from scratch, is it because I'm incapable? I'm not worthy? Like if I have to buy something, is it because I'm incompetent? Like I can't just do it on my own? Like I think a lot of our decisions, if we looked at why we aren't doing something in alignment with what's maybe best for us, it's like related to ego. Am I really going to pay for access to like meet other people? And then there's also the fear. What if I invest $20,000 into something that I really believe in, and then I do nothing with it, or I don't see any results from it? And then I'm going to feel like I was a poor investor of my money. I was stupid. Other people like knew I was doing this thing. I didn't get a good return from it, and that's embarrassing. A stock, I could put 20 grand in and nobody is like really going to know about it. But if I join a community, well, now there's awareness. And if I declare in this community, hey guys, I'm working on building this thing, or I want to create X, Y, and Z outcome, and I don't do it, I'm exposing myself to be seen. So I think there's that element of it too, like the fear of failure at a higher level because it's public failure almost, like if I'm a part of a community.
Oh, 100%. I mean, similar if you run a podcast or on social media, the numbers don't lie and they're public.
Right.
They're public.
Right.
See it, right?
Right.
Man, I think you're spot on. I think there's a fear that this person is full of shit, basically, that they are that they're lying about it, right? That
Yeah. Too good to be true, whatever.
Exactly. But I also think there's a skewed timeline on how we look at ROI. On like the return, like you made a good point. Atlas costs $4,000, right? What would you say your ROI has been on that?
I mean, the amount
A
of
number on it.
let's see, I did Atlas in 20. So like, I don't think I would have gotten married if I didn't go through Atlas. Getting married and having kids has been the highest ROI activity. I was telling my wife, I'm like, we need to have more kids because every kid we have, my mind just expands with new possibilities of like what can happen. And I'm just like infinitely more creative. I genuinely think that like that single decision, like getting married, choosing to create a family. Had I not done Atlas, where I was at as a man in like my level of comfort with commitment in regards to relationships, I don't think that I would have felt comfortable going into that next stage of my life. And like hands down, that single decision has had such a ripple effect in every area of my life, my health, my business, my relationships with my family, like how I think about the future. Yeah, I mean, if I put a number on it, it'd be like tangibly in like dollars, it would be like the hundreds of thousands of dollars, like already 5 years in. I think like throughout my lifetime, the skills that I learned in terms of how to communicate, like I have multiple business partners. I have many employees that are counting on me. Like I need to have lots of challenging conversations almost every week. I have at least one challenging conversation with somebody in my community. Without the tools that I got from Atlas in terms of how to take accountability for things, recommit to a relationship, cast a bigger vision forward, be in integrity with my word, operate with responsibility, like all of these core things that are just ingrained in the Atlas program. I mean, yeah, I would probably create like 1/10 of the outcomes that I'm creating.
It sounds like we're doing an ad for them right now, and we're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, it's
Right.
I can't even I wouldn't be married either.
I would not
I
be
wouldn't be
married.
married either.
I
Like
would not be married.
people that have hired me or brought me into their business to run a session for the employees, like there's so much money that came from it that I didn't expect. It's
Uh-huh.
not gonna stop.
No.
But every time I invest in a network, like you said,
Hmm.
the ROI, I won't know what. And going in, you'll have no idea what's going.
No idea. Yeah.
And it's tough because look, man, like $4,000's a lot for a lot of people, or like even if it was a Tony Robbins training or something like
Right,
there,
right,
right?
right.
Whatever it is, Joe Dispenza has one coming up in December, and someone can look at that and think, $2,500 is a lot of money. But like you said, you're going to be in the room with a bunch of other people that pay that amount of money,
Right.
and those people are generally up to something.
There's a book called Die with Zero. I don't know who the author is. I don't remember the author's name.
So his name's Bill Perkins.
Yeah,
I
Bill
met him
Perkins.
last night.
Yes.
Swear.
That's funny. So that book Die with Zero, one of the things he talks about in the book is he talks about the time value of money in terms of your enjoyment with the money. And so he kind of shares this story where he's in his early 20s and he made like 18 grand that year as like an intern as a stockbroker or something. I might be totally butchering the story. But he he was being asked to like go on this vacation and he's like, oh no, I need to like save my money. And he had a mentor or boss at the time that was like, what the heck, dude? Like, you're in a career where every year for the next 30 years, your income is going to be growing by like 10 or 20% if you do a good job. He kind of points out it's like the value of your money at 20 years old to go travel and have an awesome experience and meet new people. The value of that dollar is like significantly more than the value of that dollar when you're 60. I'm much more aggressive about, I would way rather take 20 grand a year that I might be putting into a Roth IRA and put it into a network, because my thought is the relationship, first of all, it's going to bring me a lot more enjoyment. So if I do life with awesome people, my life is going to be way more fun. So that's also like a cool thing is I get to have this like awesome kind of experience with other people earlier in my life now, and then the compounded benefit of knowing people for 30, 40, 50 years, I'm going to have crazy awesome rich relationships that I wouldn't have been able to have access to. Those are the people are going to be the things that I'm going to be like having memories with too. I'm not going to have memories with money. If you know that your income is going to be increasing, then like you should be a little bit more aggressive about spending your money. For people who they have skills, maybe like more like white collar skills, they at least know that their income is going to grow based on them being very committed to their craft, then 100% like you should be putting your money into things that can support you on that journey. Relationships and information are two of those things that can really help.
I want to change subject just a little bit because I think going back to Bill Perkins, which you're talking about, the
Yeah.
book is very contrarian.
Yeah, it totally.
It is.
Yeah.
It talks about the numbers he throws out there are crazy, that most people die with more money than they had when they retired. They don't end up spending it.
So crazy.
And the logic
That's
of
so
it,
crazy.
but it makes perfect sense when you think about it, though, that you will, every decade you're alive, you're going to spend less money.
Mhm.
I think what we do as humans is we straight line it. And we think I'm going to need 200 grand a year or 100 grand a year per year
Right.
in my 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. He says something in the book where it's like, go ahead and give your grandmother $10,000 and see what she does with it.
Right.
Nothing.
She's going to do nothing.
Because she's not as mobile as she used to be.
No.
And it would have been better for you to spend that money when you were 40
Mm-hmm.
to go do something that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do get it. It's contrarian. Now, what I like what you're working on right now is it feels a bit contrarian to me. If you go online right now, like YouTube, social media, there's a debate on should you buy a house, should you not buy a house?
Sure.
A time is it a bad time?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they buy a house and think like, this is the best way for me to build wealth.
Yeah.
And it's a decision point that people get stuck on. But you said something about thinking about the cash flow coming out of a house.
Oh, yeah.
Versus buying a business. And that's what helped you decide that you wanted to get into buying businesses instead of real estate. Can you share that mindset?
Well, yeah. And just like for perspective, so I recently bought with a partner a company that does around 8 figures in revenue. And I don't own a home. Like I do not own a home personally for our family. There's some reasons for that. So going back to like if you're a person who you know for certain you're going to live in the same town for 50 years and that's like in your DNA, like you're not going to change that and you're probably going to work like the same job and your income is not really going to increase. I think a house is probably better than renting because you can be building equity and that's probably going to be the highest likelihood chance that you can increase your net worth and then you could, take a line of credit against the home later in your life or like be able to sell that and give it to your kids, whatever. So I think that could make sense. But for people who maybe have a little bit more of a active lifestyle, they're moving to different cities, they don't know if they're going to stay in the same spot every 3 to 5 years. Is a house like a good investment? Well, first of all, I think most people, when they go to buy a house, they look at their income and they go, okay, let's say I'm making 10 grand a month. These institutions will loan up to basically 50% of your income. And so some people making 10 grand a month will go get a mortgage at like $4,500 a month. And that like just immediately squeezes you. And in my experience, the more expenses that I add on that I can't easily remove, and you certainly cannot easily remove an expense like a house, I'm constricting my freedom and my options, right? And I feel that when I'm constricting my freedom and my options, I think way less creatively because I'm operating from a place of scarcity versus like a place of abundance. And so I think you would be probably feeling more abundant living in an apartment that's $1,000 a month that you don't own, but you're making 10 grand a month and you have all this extra cushion than living in this like beautiful home that is $4,500 a month, but you're feeling like really squeezed every single month. It really is dependent on each person's like personal preference. But the thing about a house is it's not going to pay you cash flow, right? So I buy the home and some of my money is going to equity, but the other money is going to taxes, right? And interest, right? So interest is an equity and taxes is an equity. And then also there's all the costs, the time and the money with things that are going to inevitably break and be a problem in the house, like the AC or like now that you own the home, well, we should do the backyard too. So now all of a sudden, because I own the home, I need to be putting more money into the home than I would have if I was renting. So it ends up starting to kind of like slurp cash. And if I look at the average, let's say you want to buy like a home for 500 grand. So you're going to put $100,000 down, about 20%. And then every month you're going to pay somewhere between like 3 to 4K, depending on the year and the interest rates on a mortgage. And so your first year, you're out $130,000.
Yeah.
Just in year one. And you might have 15 or 30 years left, right? So what else could I put $130,000 in? I could put 130K into a stock. Well, a stock may go up and it may go down. It may pay some distributions. I could put it into a high yield savings account and make like 3 to 4% on it. Or there's this alternative asset class, which I don't think is for everyone. I think you have to be a little bit crazy. It's not a passive thing for sure. It's certainly not passive. But if you're somebody who's okay to get their hands dirty, who's comfortable taking some risk, and who has a background of generating results and working with people well, like you have a background in leadership, then I think there's this interesting asset class, which is small businesses that are under $2 million a year in profit. The kind of the crazy opportunity here is the government has this loan program called the SBA loan. And you can acquire a multi-million-dollar business for less money down than you could acquire a less than $1 million house. So, in some case, you can acquire a business that's worth $5 million for 500 grand. In some cases, you can do it for as little as 5% down. So you get a $5 million company for $250,000. And you could buy something day one that in your first year, it's actually cash flowing you more than your initial investment in year one. So you could put $100,000 down into a business that pays you 200 grand a year for the next like 10 years. What other asset can do that? Even if you were to buy a home that you didn't live in, that you're going to rent to somebody else, usually what ends up happening is the renter moves in and maybe it makes enough to cover the mortgage payments, but you're not really getting additional cash flow. And so you're not building up like this extra cushion of cash. There's this really fun study that was done playing the game of Monopoly, and they gave people extra money, but didn't tell them about the extra money that they gave them. And they had them play the game of Monopoly. And then at the end, the people who had the extra money always won. And they would ask them like, well, why did you win? And they would think it was like a certain strategy that they had. But at the end of the day, it was like they just had more cash. And that's what allowed them to win, because they were able to buy things quicker.
Right.
And so I want to, as quickly as possible, as young as possible, increase the spread between my net income and my net expenses personally, so that cash snowball can build. And then once I have a cash snowball at a certain point in my life, then cool. If I want to buy a house, then great, I'm buying it. But I'm not buying it because it's a good investment. I'm buying it because I value the safety and security of owning my home and creating a space for my family that my kids are going to grow up in, and it's a beautiful thing. But it's not because I'm like, this is the thing that's going to save me or like create a bunch of wealth for my family.
And now when we were talking about why more entrepreneurs don't think like this, like go buy something, and the unique timing is that a lot of these businesses are 20, 25 years old.
Yeah.
The people who ran it, they're in their 50s or 60s now.
Yeah.
They want to retire.
Yeah.
And their kids don't want to run the business.
Correct.
So they're trying to get out. So there's more of them coming for sale than people buying them. But the general entrepreneur mindset is, let me start something from scratch and build it out of nothing. And you said something about how to do this model requires you to let go of a little bit of ego.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a few things at play here. So one is, the ego associated with, well, I could just build it on my own, right? I could just go get my own real estate to rent. I could hire my own employees. I could build a better brand. And there's this kind of belief of like, oh, well, I can do it. And it's like, yeah, sure, you could do it, but somebody else has already laid the groundwork and you can get there a lot faster. If I want to compress 10 years of time, the only way that I could do that would be to step into something that somebody else has already been working on for 10 years. And I think there's probably a fear around debt too that people have, like, oh, that feels risky, and a fear that, why would anyone sell a good business? Why would anyone sell?
That's what I thought, because so you brought this up, and I think I told you that, a month ago I was looking at this website. And I found this Amazon store in LA that they were selling for, I think it was 400 grand. And they basically just sold diapers.
Right.
And I wish I had just gone, it's not for sale anymore. I wish I had just gone and had the meeting, because in my mind, I was like, diapers is probably the most recession-proof thing you could sell.
Yeah.
And it said, it always says the reason why they're selling it. And I felt like there's a natural lack of trust I had in looking, like, why would someone sell a good business? And people would sell businesses for all sorts of reasons.
All right. Yeah.
But there definitely is that piece of, am I getting ripped off again? It's America. People do rip off.
Sure.
But the fact is, people just get tired. They want to move on or to do something else with their life. And there's assets that are out there.
Yeah.
But you're right. The ego of, all right, if they can build an Amazon store, why don't I just go build a Pampers store? Right. But why would I go try to find a Pampers supplier? I know nothing about Pampers.
There's so much more work than you possibly think. Most stuff is not as easy as we think it would be. When you see the success that's already been created, it's like, oh, it's not that hard. Like, you just get a manufacturer and you have a web page, you run some simple ads, but like, you don't take into account even brand equity. Like, how much equity has been built from them running ads for 10 years in the local community, or like, how many past customers do they have that are talking positively about this thing? Like, it takes time to create momentum. Like, it's hard. It's like an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion. It's really hard to get an object in motion. There's that quote about startups where 95% of startups fail in the first 5 years. But there's another mathematical law. I don't remember the specific one, but it's basically, the more something lives on, so if something lives for like 10 years, the likelihood of it lasting another 10 years is like 50% or so.
Wow.
And so like the longer something's been around, the more likely it will continue to be around for at least as long as it has been around. So if something's been around for 20 years, it has a way higher likelihood of being around 20 years from now than the thing that has been around for 2 years. That's interesting, right? And so it's actually less risky that, to take out a loan to get something existing than to do something completely from scratch.
How do you compare the risk of buying a home versus the risk of buying a business? Because let's say you buy a home and you fall behind on the mortgage payments, the bank comes and gets the house, right? If you buy a business and let's say it goes sideways, what happens with the loan?
Yeah, it depends on the way that you buy the business. I would say a lot of times with these SBA loans that many people are doing, which is kind of a traditional vanilla financing approach, if you're not able to make the payments, they're going to come take everything that you have. So unlike a home where it's backed by the asset itself, the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to come take your home back, right? They're not going to come take your car and your other homes.
Right.
Whereas with the SBA, if you have a few $100,000 in stock, you've got a vacation home, and then now you're buying a business. Well, yeah, if you don't make those payments, like they're going to come seize those other assets. And so that is no joke. I personally, on all the deals I've done so far, I haven't been on the personal guarantee. The way that I've been a part of deals is as a minority partner, but it's a very serious thing. You have to look at, am I okay with the margin of safety? So if you have a business doing $1 million in profit and the debt is going to cost you $500,000, well, your margin of safety there is like 50%. So am I okay, or is it possible that this business is going to go below 50% of what it's been doing? If for the past 5 years, it's been kind of at this higher level. Yeah, it's possible, but ideally you're getting involved with something that you believe there's some type of value add that you can contribute. Whether it's, for me, from a marketing perspective, someone else, it might be from an operations perspective, somebody else, it might be from a hiring perspective. I want to buy a business that is not a turnaround opportunity. I'm not buying something that, okay, it's $200,000 in profit and the debt is $180,000. We'll see if we can make this work, right? Like, I'm not buying a hope and a dream and a prayer. I'm buying something that should day one, ideally on the buy, pay me money. And there's many different ways to structure deals too. So I'm working on something right now that is going to be mostly seller financed, which doesn't require the SBA or the bank, and it can be backed by the services of the business. There's a lot of different ways to kind of structure it to reduce risk, but yeah, it is definitely something that you have to be okay with and comfortable with. There's this story that my business partner in the furniture company shared about one of the wealthiest people he knows in real estate. And he was asking him, he said, why did you get so rich when, other people are not nearly as successful in real estate? And he said, all of my partners that I've had in my life were never willing to take the personal guarantee on the real estate. So all my other partners were the limited partners. They'd own 15 to 20%. And he said they did great, but they're not enormously wealthy.
Yeah.
Like, I became enormously wealthy because I'm the one that put the personal guarantee, like the buck stops with me, basically. And so one way to mitigate risk, you could do it kind of the way that I have done it, which is partnering with somebody else. You have a unique skill set that you bring to the table. I can really drive revenue and sales for companies, and partnering with somebody else who's okay with that. The benefit to the person taking the personal guarantee is you're accelerating your wealth creation. It's a little more risky for sure, but if you own 80% of something that is pushing off a lot of cash flow, like, you can really increase the value of your investment quite quickly.
Well, what I love about it is that you're doing this now, and it's not 10 years later where you're saying, like, here's my 20 business.
Oh, right. So yeah, I'm pretty early. I've only been doing this for, my first deal that I closed was April of 2023. So we're like, yeah, real fresh.
Well, look, I mean, I think more shows in media needs people that are in it talking about it while they're in it.
Right.
I know you're going to win. You just seem like a winner. Do you think at some point you will take on the guarantee?
It's interesting. I talked to a mentor of mine in a community I just invested in called the Advisory Board with Tom Shipley and Matt Bonner, because wow, how many mistakes am I going to prevent myself from making when I have a deal and I could talk to 3 other people, be at war with a multitude of counselors, and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. and they go, okay, that's fine, but I would structure this slightly differently. Like that's invaluable. It's one thing to have a book, one thing to have ChatGPT, but to have somebody who's actually 20 years ahead and has made all the mistakes that you're probably going to make, give you advice, like that's incredibly helpful. One of the things that he had shared is that as you go up market beyond like a $2 million profit business, you can actually start doing institutional level deals where you don't actually need a personal guarantee. You can have the business's assets be what is backing the guarantee itself. And I think as businesses get bigger and bigger and bigger, they're less concerned with the individual. They're more concerned about the like business asset. But to answer your question, I do think I would to get to a point where I'd feel comfortable signing a personal guarantee. It may be at a point where my net worth is in excess of whatever the personal guarantee would be. Maybe my net worth is at 5 million, like 30 years from now or 10 years from now. And the personal guarantee on the business is like 2 million. Maybe I'll be like, yeah, I'm fine with that. Like I can cover that. One of my guiding philosophies, which is not everyone's, is Warren Buffett's like rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't lose money. Because you just obliterate the compounding effect.
Right.
Even when I made this recent investment in the furniture company, I went to my personal network and got a small loan for part of the down payment. I had the assets in Bitcoin and crypto, but I didn't want to sell it. And I felt comfortable taking that small loan because if the business didn't work out, I could take the assets that I had and pay off that person in my personal network. I probably would wait to do the personal guarantee until my net worth was in excess of like a multiple of it for me to feel comfortable. Or it would be in an industry where I'm like, I just know this industry, like hands down, I can do it with my eyes closed. I'm comfortable taking the PG on it. One of the biggest concerns with these is not necessarily like the long term. It's you want to make sure that the business has enough cash that it could support the debt payments and support the cost of running the business. And so having extra lines of credit available so that if you were in a cash crunch, you could still pay off the debt that month is also going to help reduce your risk. So there's many things you can do to reduce the risk, even if you are signing on PG. But yeah, to answer your question, if it was in the industry that I like really, really understood, or I've done multiple deals in it already, then yeah, I don't see a reason why in the future I wouldn't be comfortable with it, but it probably would, I would want it to be less than what my current net worth is.
It seems like part of the challenge in your model is you being the LP and finding enough people willing to take on the guarantee of the business. But I also do see like if you find a business putting off that much EBITDA, and if you can increase the revenue by, I don't know, 10%, eventually you hire a manager that can run it. And then you, as the owner, can take more of a step back, and then you go buy the next business or the next business.
Yeah.
I think that is the model
Yep.
that you're aiming for here. And if you do that, and the businesses are in different industries, then you start to kind of mitigate your risk of like a downturn in any one industry.
Right.
And I think that's super interesting too. Like, going back to your original point, like if your business can be taken out by some kid who can just code so well in Ukraine,
Right.
like,
Or Google unleashes like some new AI release that just eats, 100 AI apps because everyone's just going to go to where's the best or like the most distributed solution.
Yeah. All right. This has been great. I have been doing this thing where I ask people some rapid fire questions
Okay.
at the end,
Yeah.
just to see what your initial response will be.
Yeah.
No pressure here, no pressure.
Okay.
But I have a few questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
We'll be quick with it. All right. Well, number one, you ready?
Yeah.
What's one non-negotiable habit you have in your day?
For me, it's actually sleep.
Say more about this, please.
Yeah, like I don't sacrifice my sleep. I really haven't set alarms for probably 5 years. I used to set alarms 5 in the morning, but I just make sure that I get really good quality sleep every night. Yeah.
Is there a number that you generally get?
No, I just want to sleep until my body wakes up. And then when I wake up is when I get my day started.
That is such a valuable thing. The one through line I see of the most successful people I meet is that they sleep between 7 to 9 hours.
Oh, for me, it's probably close to, 9 hours every night.
I went to a VC meeting once. It was a few years ago. I flew to San Francisco, and I remember I worked really late the night before, had to wake up early. Flight was at like 7 a.m., so I had to get to the airport at 5. So I might have slept like 4 hours. Show up at the VC meeting at a coffee shop, and the VC is like, hey, how are you doing? I was like, I'm good. I'm a little tired. I didn't sleep too much last night, and he knew why. And instead of asking about the business, he went on a 5-minute rant about how important sleep was. And I just sat there, and it was almost like he wasn't talking down to me. He just was like, if you don't sleep, your ability to make decisions,
Right.
your ability to focus, the quality of your work goes down. You need to sleep.
Right.
And he pressed it. I didn't expect that from. I thought the investor's going to be like, awesome, this guy's a hustler. He goes, no,
Right.
sleep.
Yeah.
So I think you're spot on.
You gotta sleep. Yeah.
Gotta sleep.
Get to bed. Like I go to bed probably around like 9 o'clock every night.
Wow. Or number 2, if you could put one sentence on a billboard
Right.
for the whole world to see,
Yeah.
what would it be?
Yeah. It would be have kids or raise kids because they're the greatest teachers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with people who decide not to have them, what do you think happens to them at like 50 or 60? You think they regret it or what?
Well, that's why I would add in like, or raise kids, like find a way to get involved, like with a nephew and niece, a community, like be engaged around children in some way. Because not everyone is able to have kids. Not everyone, the timing will work out because of choices that they made earlier in their life. And that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to reap the benefits in the future. Like I think there can be extraordinarily rich non-biological relationships that can be created with adults and children that can last for a very, very long time. The evidence is pretty clear. Like if you don't get engaged in something in like your 30s and 40s, in your 60s and 70s, you're not going to do it. And so I think getting engaged with children, they're life's greatest teachers. They're the future. They help us kind of expand into the next generation. They help us think more long term. They open our minds in ways that like adults just like really don't think. They help us see the world with new eyes. And so whether you have kids or not doesn't really matter. Find a way to get engaged with like raising them in some way.
It's a good one. I didn't expect that one to come out of you, but I love it. Last one. So if you could go back to age 20, especially for you,
Okay.
and some of the people I asked this for, but if you could go back to age 20 with all of your knowledge you have right now, what would you do differently?
I would be stricter about the values of the people that I choose to surround myself with. Yeah. I would be more intentional about being with people who had values that were aspirational to me. That would probably be the main like thing. And also, as much as I think like dating was a core part of my human development, and I don't have any regrets with like the amount of dating that I did earlier in my life, I think that not being as focused on girls would have also been supportive for me, because if I was more focused on mastery and like my individual purpose, things would have worked out just fine anyways. I probably was more distracted than I needed to be.
Since you've been dropping a lot of names and things like that, I'm going to throw a couple more questions at you.
Okay.
What's one course you think an entrepreneur must do?
Realistically, what have been the 2 most transformational things that I've done in the past 5 years? It was the Alice Project and it was getting married and having kids. Like, no question. Atlas Project is very cool. It's very experiential and it's community based too. So you're going to meet a lot of other people who are focused on their personal development. I don't think there's any other tool so far that I've found that is as valuable at like seeing your own blind spots as that 4-month program of Atlas. So for sure that. And then also, if you are thinking about getting married or having kids, you should just do it. Because you're never going to find the perfect person, but you're going to have a wild ride of transformation. I don't think there's anything more transformational than committing to someone and building something special with another person.
Okay.
Yeah, this was fun. It was it was a fun journey. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you pushed me to sit down together.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as it seemed it was going to be, right?
Yeah, no,
Man, thank you. I'd love to have you back on.
awesome.
Maybe after you buy your next like 2 or 3 businesses,
Right.
or if you coach me to buy one.
Yeah. No, we'll get together after you close on your first deal.
This surrogate business looks interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey guys, that's it for another episode of Growth Snacks. Thanks for tuning in. If you love the content, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until I see you next time, try something new.